Hey guys, Cardone Corner here with Chris Inks. It's not July the 25th, it's April the 25th. I'm really wanting July to come around because I think that's when all these big investors are going to come into Bitcoin. So living in the future, Chris. Hey man, really good to have you. We were just talking while our technical teams are trying to get us live. Um, just how much is going on right now and how hard it is to keep up with everything without being like just duplicating, rinse and repeating the same thing everybody's been talking about. While we were waiting for you and you were waiting for me, there was a little admit button and Chris is sitting there waiting for 15 minutes and my team's like, hey, where's Chris at? This is unlike Chris. And there's a little button sitting there and Chris like, dude, I'm waiting for you to let me in. So my bad for being late, guys. Don't blame Chris. You guys follow Chris if you're not doing it. We were just talking about how he and I think we're really good partners on this show because I look at like my investment thesis on Bitcoin is on fundamentals. I mean, pure fundamentals, supply and demand. And Chris looks at this as, hey, the chart's really telling us what the story is. So I think this combination of viewpoint, for lack of a better word, his viewpoint, my viewpoint, bringing these two together really gives the audience a nice blend perspective. So, Chris, I'm going to just throw this out here. We've had what in the last 10 days, a 21% down move. I was actually happy to see that. It went into the 50s very shortly. Unfortunately, I could not execute on the bids. Prices moved up. It tested 67 and we came back down again. I'm going to just say my view is that we have to go test that low again, that in the 50s, if all we do is just play with it. What are your thoughts, man? I'm sitting there holding some bids down in the low 60s, as in 0, and maybe some in the 50s. Do you think we've tested enough, and we bounce up, or we got to do something, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, when I look at this, again, I usually look at the charts a few different ways. I look through it with Elliott wave, and I look through it with price action and volume, and because it's a range in the idea of Wyckoff analysis. And if I'm looking at it, I mean, what we got was basically, we've got this range which begins about, what is it? I guess it's about March 14th. That's the swing high of the range, the resistance. The range support was down there on March 19th at around 60,775. And so what we had here recently was just a couple of wicks below that, which got bought up pretty damn quickly. Which what it does is it tells us, okay, well, there's a ton of demand in that level. There's just so much demand there. There's no follow through by supply to get lower. And so you get this instant, like the minute it hits that area, you get this huge pop up. And so for me, watching that, we rallied from that slight dip just below the range low there, the range support, all the way up to the range EQ, the equilibrium of the range, the mid of the range. And that's where we've got the pullback right now. And all we did really is, especially if you look at the 4-hour chart, is we wicked down below the pivot that's on the hourly time frame. So that's holding us support. We actually hit the 15-minute S1 pivot, the first support pivot on the 15-minute, and we've now broken back out above that. So when I'm looking at this combination of things, especially in terms of the pivots there and the price action that we're getting there, to me that says, listen, we're probably the lowest probably in. We still, of course, need some confirmation higher. So for me, on the chart, I'm looking on the Bitcoin all-time high index chart. I needed to see this breakout above 67,130. If we do that, we should be rallying toward the top of the range, the large range that we've been in for 40 somewhat days now. And so once we head up toward there, if we can get a breakout above 72, 797 and 99 cents, then I mean, that all but confirms that we should be heading to new all-time highs. And so, that's what I'm watching right now. How do I get invalidated on that? Honestly, at this point, we've got to drop below the recent swing low on from Thursday the 18th. That last dip there below the range support. We've got to get down below that in order for what I'm looking at, locally at least, to be invalidated. But at the end of the day, again, it's just been sideways. I don't even want to talk about this being a pullback, because we've been range bound for this. Again, after that initial kind of pullback, we've been range bound for 40 somewhat days. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we're just kind of sitting there.
Does this surprise you?
Not really. If we look at it, we had God, what was that rally? I know I posted this recently here. We had actually our last real sideways was about December 8th of 23 until February 7th of 24. And what we did was from the bottom of that range, which basically printed what I believe is a spring, kind of like what we've done here. From that low to this range top, I mean, that's 91% move in how many days is that? That's a 91% rally in about 50 days. And so, you're almost doubling, your price in, just over a month and a half. So, we're going to need some sideways to kind of to deal with it. If we don't get a strong pullback, again, I've talked about this before. Everybody looks for that strong pullback, but sometimes, and what we've got a lot this bull cycle has been a lot of sideways, and so that energy isn't dispersed like a zigzag, like a straight down almost. It's dispersed sideways over time, and so that's kind of what we're seeing here. We didn't get a big, huge pullback. We got, again, that 74,000 to 60,000 kind of pullback, which for Bitcoin is kind of is pretty pretty small. But then we just kind of, bounced up and bounced back down, and we're just doing the sideways again, kind of again, like the last one we had. And then we had the 7 months of sideways back there in 2023 for most of 2023. So, you get the strong, big move up. And if you're not going to get a sharp move back down, it's just the energy is going to just be dispersed sideways. And that's kind of what we're doing. So, I'm like everybody else. I'd like to see it go up there. I'd like to go ahead and get it up there and hit the 100,000, shut people up. But, we just deal with what we have.
Yeah. Well, I like the price action, what it's doing. I think this is the only asset I have ever bought in my life. I've said this before, but it is really profound. It's the only asset I've ever owned in my life. I wanted the price to go down. I mean, like, really want the price
what's your
to go
reasoning
down.
for that? Why is it that you want to see it go down?
Well, because I want to have another bite at the apple, man. I'm not full of this yet. I think the trade is such a asymmetrical trade here. No, most people don't talk about this. We only talk about the price, but at $1.3 trillion of market cap, this industry, let's think about Bitcoin as an industry, not as a coin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a coin, man. It's a whole fucking industry. At 1.3 trillion, it can't go down. Like, it's tiny. It's like being treated like it's a piece of gravel on the planet. And I don't think we're going back to 8-track tapes, man. If we're not going back to 8-track tapes, then we must go back. We must be going forward to even more compression, right? My phone has 8-track tapes in it. Those machines used to be that big, right? And then what we think the compression on this is going to get looser and it's going to get goosey, or is it going to get tighter, better, faster? It's going to get tighter, better, faster.
Yeah.
And I think, Bitcoin's going to be that utility. I hate using that word because I think a utility is, hey, this pencil, it's a utility, dude. Yeah. Like, it has a purpose. As long as it has a pencil lead in it, then, I can use it for its instructive purposes. I just think Bitcoin has a lot of applications to it. The biggest application, I think, the biggest value that has not a penny's worth calculated inside the $74,000. I've stopped looking at the price. I don't care.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was at a show the other day with a bunch of real estate guys, all of them about 15 years younger than me. Some ballers too, man. They were making some cash. There were 6 people on the panel. I was one of them, and I had Sam with me, my partner that's doing the political lobby and regulatory perspective. And he noticed, I didn't notice it, but 3 of the 5 other guys all looked at me and said, "Hey, you know what? I don't have any Bitcoin. I mean, zero."
Yeah.
But all 3 of them, he noticed 2 things. One, they all said in public, "Hey, Gary, I'd like to meet with you next week. You see something that I don't see. I have not heard it pitched this way before. I want to meet." 3 of the 5, okay? But the thing that Sam noticed, not one human being asked about price.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 months ago, "Hey, what's the price?" Now they're not asking about the number, dude. That is a big deal. Like, sends shivers up my spine. That's a big deal.
Well, and it's huge for Bitcoin because, again, Bitcoin has been, this little nascent industry for so long, has been this little thing for so long. And now it's finally getting that big attention that everybody's been talking about that they've wanted. And some of the people now, the real maximalists are like, "Oh my God, we hate all this attention." But, if you want its use, if you want it to be used more, if you want it to grow, I mean, you've got to have it. You've got to have that big institutional, big player kind of interest in it, because the way you get use is, that people find out about it and they learn about it. And as much as everybody wants to hate the SEC, and we all kind of feel the way we do about the SEC, at the end of the day, them saying, "Okay, we're going to do the spot Bitcoin ETF," has gone a long way in pushing that out there to the people that really, have the resources to use and even develop further and push. It's crazy. What we're seeing now. This is why I kind of struggle a bit here with this idea. When we're talking about price, and the big thing has been like, okay, well, we hit an all-time high prior to the halving, so it looks like it's going to be this thing we call a left translated cycle, which just means that the bull cycle ends sooner than what we normally expect it to. The other side of that is this idea of some sort of mainstream adoption super cycle, which would mimic potentially 2012, 2013, where we had this, for lack of a better term, this double pump. You had like an all-time high, a pullback, a decent pullback, and then another much larger all-time high. And so I kind of sit here between both of them because I can see, again, just purely looking at, okay, just price action alone. Yeah, there's the possibility we could get that left translated cycle. But when I look at the interest, when I look at what we've seen so far, if this thing, as far as institutional interest, as far as, these bigger players really taking an interest in it happens here, as we get through the summer and into Q4, as you and I have talked about so many times before, I mean, I really see there's a significant possibility that we could get this much larger rally over a longer term period, just because the market itself will kind of fundamentally change from what it's always been. It's always been the crypto bros, basically. We talked about, you rally up through Bitcoin, you take your profits, you cycle through alts, you come back into Bitcoin. Whereas now, you and I were talking about it, I think, way before, I think pretty much anybody else. And then Bitwise kind of jumped on this, Hunter Horsley and the guys over there talking about this everything cycle where Bitcoin just continues to go up as, of course, alts, cycle through and whatnot. So I think there's a lot of potential for that if we're thinking in terms of price, but it's based on this idea that the people who could really move and shake and do things finally really getting interested and taking it seriously. And like you said, those individuals not even talking about price, talking about Bitcoin itself. And that understanding, that look at it from that different angle, I think is a huge thing for Bitcoin.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I mean, just to build on that, I just literally got off the phone with a guy I do some banking with, and I survey all these people, right? Like, how many clients do you handle? And he's now calling me. You know you're doing something right or wrong when your banker's calling you, right?
Yeah.
Hey, let's have lunch, Gary. And I mean, I like these guys; they're awesome. But I started talking to them about Bitcoin 3.5 years ago, and they were like, "Bro, you're one of 27 families, and you're the only guy. And
Yeah.
not only you're the only guy, you're the biggest guy, but I'm the smallest family."
Yeah.
Today, conversation went like this. I have 27 clients, all but two of them are already in. They're
Nice.
in now. By the
Nice.
way, they're not in for 2%. Okay. They all of them are in for a minimum of $250,000. That's the minimum of any of these families. Like all this 1% and 2% of liquid net worth. That's very different than net worth, right? But I said, hey, it's at least 250. He said, yeah, these guys ain't gonna do anything less than 250. That's 3 Bitcoin, man.
Yep.
You guys sitting on the sidelines that aren't wealthy, you should love these shows because I'm not trying to use the big numbers to freak you out. Like somebody bitched at me the other day and went, hey, man, not all of us are millionaires. I'm like, hey, blame your mom, your dad for not teaching these are zeros. And
Yeah.
you guys placed a lot of weight on 1,000, and I placed a lot of weight on 1 billion. Like it's just, they're just zeros though. So it's not my fault. But I think what's important is to know how these wealthy players are coming into the game.
Yeah.
And of the two people that aren't in yet, they're the biggest he has. So the biggest portfolio, multi-billion dollar portfolios, they're not in yet. And their allocation won't be 250, dude. A billionaire does not want a $250,000 investment. Most people don't understand that. They
Yeah.
might buy a car for 250, but they don't want an investment for 250, right? And that has not shown up yet. That shows up in Q3, Q4.
Yeah.
I think, and that's being, you and I were talking about this months ago. This is now being validated by the teams at Bitwise, who have, by the way, Hunter, you guys have done an awesome job, Bitwise, bringing everybody into the 21st century. The ads are now just hitting the market. The TD Ameritrade ad, that was good. There's a lot of legacy players that are now coming out of the closet. They have been in the closet, like the lady at is it Wells Fargo? Really like very conservative firm. They're now saying, hell yeah, we've been working on this for 8 years, but they didn't tell anybody,
Yeah.
right? So when you start hearing about Bitcoin on comedy shows and soap operas and the news, we're then now entering, the world of absorption. I think it's just going to be absorption at this point. And when this thing takes off, these wealthy people are not going to care what the price is. And they're not going to care about, nobody knows this price move 21% that's got it in their IRA. They don't even look at their IRA. And this myth about them what is it called when you go from 1% allocation, Bitcoin goes to 10% of your whole, they're going to allocate or
Yeah.
rebalance. They call it rebalancing. I was talking to Yusko the other day. He's like, dude, nobody rebalances their IRA ever.
Right.
It
Yep.
just sits there, right? And I think that's a very good observation. Are you seeing some of these comments on the side, or can you see these?
I can't see them at the moment.
Yeah. Well, back to the volatility. Bitcoin trader says, effing love volatility. That is the right way to look at this. If you're a long-term holder, even if you're a short-term trader like you are, well, you're not. You treat Bitcoin very differently than a short-term
Yeah.
trade. But if you like being able to buy 20% dips, this should be the most beautiful product ever in the history of mankind for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're trading, that's what you want. You want volatility. Now you don't want the really extreme volatility. It gets really crazy because that could throw things off. But when you've got decent volatility, and so for Bitcoin, what we've been dealing with is decent volatility, not like the extremes it usually gets. I mean, as a
You
trader,
mean predictable volatility, right?
yeah, more or
Yeah,
less, yeah,
not
exactly. You're
crazy.
talking about
Yeah.
like Meta's overnight drop, with their earnings call and whatnot. Um, but yeah, as a trader, and I think this is a thing a lot of retail people that are in the markets kind of miss out on, misunderstand, is that they're always thinking about price, but in terms of where their particular buy-in is headed, instead of thinking about the market itself, and like you were mentioning there, the volatility, and always being prepared, always having um an understanding there's going to be that volatility and being prepared to buy that volatility. It's a difficult thing as human beings, generally speaking, we don't run into risk. We run away from risk. And the less that you understand about whatever it is you're doing, when the risk hits, the more likely you are to just jump out, just jump ship. But as a trader in the markets, the more that you learn about how and why markets actually move the way they do, a lot of stuff that we teach, the more you understand about how to properly approach markets, how to properly approach trading. You can open an account and trade, but that doesn't mean you're actually approaching it properly. So as long as you do those things and you understand proper risk management, you have that in there. I mean, all of a sudden you're prepared for this volatility and you welcome it rather than shun it. And you start understanding that big quote about buying when there's blood in the street, especially if it's my blood. You know, you really start understanding that much more like it's meant to be understood. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't understand yet. They just kind of repeat the words. But yeah, I mean, as a trader, you have to, if you want to succeed over time, you have to actually understand these things, and you have to be ready to welcome that volatility and really understand that it's coming. Otherwise you'll continually get scared. You'll be surprised. You'll talk about how you're down, 50% or something. There's no reason you should be down 50% if you're trading. If you've got a long-term hold with like some multi-year target, yeah, you're going to be, especially if you're in Bitcoin, you're probably going to be down 50% at some point. That's part of that hold, though. That's part of that long-term investment. You're not in there to actively invest, but it's really difficult for people to kind of deal with, emotionally, psychologically, when these things kind of happen, if they don't understand what's going on, not prepared for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was just thinking about, like, because I'm seeing the comments, people going, "Hey, I love the volatility because it allows me a buying opportunity." You're not talking about, I mean, like, I like exciting women, but I don't like crazy, psychopathic, insane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
there's some beauty behind having some predictable volatility. And one of the reasons I really value chatting with you is I'm always keeping some money off to the side looking for these dips.
Yeah.
And for instance, I have let's call it $100,000 that I want to deploy into Bitcoin over the next few pricing points. I think actually, if I really did proper DCA per the book, I would never be down 50%.
Yeah.
The price might move down 50% from the top. In
Mm.
fact, it'd be cool to do a little, like, do mathematical. I know that they have these tools, but for the audience, because I think men in particular, we want to go pick our price because we're such dumb idiots to think that we're going to pick our price, right? It's like, come on, man, nobody's going to pick the low or the high. And if you do, you're only going to advertise that one moment you did, and you're going to forget about all the times you missed it by a mile.
Exactly. Yeah.
But see, so my question to you is, like, if I'm trying to deploy 10 grand or 100 grand, I've got bids set at 60,100 for about 5 or 6% of that. And then another 60 even, right? Because what if it doesn't penetrate 60? I mean, I think I even have some at maybe 61.
Yeah.
You could maybe look at me and go, "Bro, it's 63. What are you fucking around for?" Like, really? You're just trying to get another 8%? Because it could run away. I don't think it's going to run away now. In fact, I think Bitcoin's history is pretty much it doesn't run away. You always have another point to go into. I mean, that's what I've learned about really being in it now. I'm like, dude, don't ever panic over this thing. It's always going to retrace. What do you think about layering that out? Let's pretend like it's 100 grand. And I think my last entry was 57.5 because I just don't see me picking that up, dude, below that.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I look at the charts, as I've been talking about, it's at 59,000 level. It's basically you can look at on the weekly, the macro move up from the 2022 bear market low. It's the last higher low before we hit the all-time high. So in terms of market structure, because we have not pierced that yet, we are still in bullish market structure, which is, if you don't understand that, which a lot of retail doesn't, they go, oh my God, we pulled back again from 74 to 60. Oh, it's such a big pullback. It's going down. But, when you're approaching the market, you have to understand your time frame. You're clearly talking about longer time frames. So you're looking at that. And what I look at is I go, okay, well, I look at that and then I look at structure and I say, okay, well, we've got the range. We had the dip below with the big wicks. The weekly looks incredible with the huge wicks down there, just showing demand, just showing up consistently. And so for me, if I'm layering, and I've got that range on there, my first thought is right around the swing low, or right around the range support there. So a little bit above.
Where do you see the swing low?
So that range support is right there. Again, on this Bitcoin.
Can you show your chart or not?
Yeah, I can show my chart. Yeah, let me pull it up here.
By the way, getting a lot of great comments, man. People love you. You know that? I mean, you have such a cool following, dude.
I don't try to screw people up. I don't try to blow a lot of smoke up their rear end. Everybody else does that. I'm just interested. I figure if people are watching me, then they deserve like real commentary, stuff that they
I agree, man.
So yeah, so if I'm looking here again, for me, the range, there's a lot of stuff on here, but the range is from this all-time high down to this swing low.
That was almost 74, 73.
Almost 74, yeah. Down here to around 60,000 and some change. And so when I see a range like this develop, especially if I see the move up here, and of course, I understand what I'm looking at here. So I'm looking for, especially when we're getting this kind of movement back here, looking for this move back down to the bottom. So I like what you said, because a lot of times people come into trading, retail does, and they're like, everything in, balls in at one point. Well, the problem is that point may not be the end of the move, right? And so I'm always talking to people about, again, kind of adding in at multiple levels, not adding in at just one point. And so when you see some of this setup, you've got price action over here. So you can look at maybe like 63,500 here. You can get down here into the range low at around 60,800. I've got my own thing I kind of draw here. And as you can see, it hits the EQ of this. But that's right there at around 59,800, 900. And so that's kind of how I would look for, you kind of get in and you leave some bids at those areas. Because again, it may look like it's definitely going to find support here, but there are no guarantees in trading. There are none. And it could fit it down, fall down further. And there's always the option. So when I'm talking to people about trading, I'm like, listen, here's what I think it's going to do. And here's where I think we can look for a potential reversal. If it does reverse from here, then we need to go through this other level to add some confirmation to that. But if it doesn't, if instead of going through that level, it continues lower, then here's the other targets I would be looking at lower. And when I talk all the time, whether it's on my show or, here with you or Spaces or, even just on Twitter or, in the Trading Academy, it's always about giving the traders information. I don't want to tell them where they need to enter or exit. We're all different. The things that make us the traders or investors we are different. We have different, like your current financial and wealth position is different from mine. Mine is different from, Joe Blow down the street, right? Beyond that, our midterm and long-term financial and wealth goals are not going to be the same either. On top of that, how much we are accepting of risk, how risk tolerant or risk adverse we are is going to be different. And then there's also, well, what are we doing? How much time, especially if you want to trade, how much time do you actually have to trade each day and during the week? And finally, of that time available, how much do you actually really want to trade? And so all these things, these are all very important questions that anybody that's in the markets needs to ask themselves, because that's going to help define for them what timeframes they should be looking at. And if you understand what timeframes you're looking at, and again, if your timeframe's a larger time frame, then you're not worried about the 15-minute or the 1 hour movement. If you're the daily time frame, if you're the weekly time frame, you're not really worried even what's going on in the daily. And understanding that helps market participants better deal with their emotions. It helps them get a clearer head to deal with what's going on. Where they get really confused is their time preference, or what they can and what they want to do is like larger time frame, but they're watching that 15-minute time frame. That 15-minute time frame has absolutely nothing to do with their particular investment or their particular swing trade or positional trade. But yet
It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
It's like me looking at one of my dogs going, oh wow, he sold a carpet once and I'm gonna hate him forever.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he had a bad deal, dude. He ate something. Like, he's a great dog. I'm not gonna throw him out because he had one little problem. That means your thesis for owning that is just so up.
Right.
And to your point about the trading, I mean, there is no like middle ground, man. It's either all trading or long-term investing. It's, you could do both,
Yeah.
right? But I couldn't do both, because if I try to do the trading that you're doing and the schooling, which fits really well with you, I would no longer have 3 other businesses that I was focused on. When I did have the businesses, I can't go to Miami next week and meet with 5 billionaires because I'm so busy, hedging. Couldn't have had a date for lunch yesterday and then a dinner date the night before because I'm going to be so freaked out about my position.
Yeah.
So to me, like, it's just a personality thing. Like, and is your family going to support it? Like, I think I have managed my risk better than other people. I no longer have any wives or anybody that can go, hey, I want to buy a house, or I think we've made enough money from this. Like, I have zero pressure. I'm the last guy that's getting liquidated, man. Because there's no outside, there's no no children that get sick that make me sell it, or they need a house. All that's handled.
Yep.
So, and that's why I'm so excited about right now, like being able to buy this at 63, because you could literally talk me off the edge right now and go, bro, what are you doing, dude? You're going to buy, call it 15 to 20 Bitcoin. Does it matter if you're at 63 or 60?
Right.
Does it really matter?
Exactly. Because your time preference is much larger. See, you understand who you are as that investor. You understand all these things I was talking about earlier.
Is that more important than understanding the charts?
Very much so. Very much so. If
you should say that loud, dude. Big bold letters, man.
I'm telling you, if you understand, if you take the time, and most people don't because it's work, right? Nobody wants to do work, but nobody wants to do real proper risk management because it's not as sexy as, oh, I just got 50x on, in the last day or some nonsense like that. But it's the thing that makes you successful. Without it, you're not going to be successful. And so, again, you've got this lifetime experience of understanding who you are and what kind of risk you can take and your time frames that you're looking at. And so that makes you dangerous when it comes to the market compared to somebody else, because you're not like, hey, listen, I'm going to get shaken out and on a $5,000 move or something. I know that does, you're sitting there saying, I know that doesn't affect me in my plan and who I am and what I'm looking at. But unfortunately for most, retail that comes into the markets, they haven't done that homework. They haven't been honest with themselves. These are hard questions a lot of times, because you have to be absolutely 100% honest with yourself. Otherwise it doesn't work. but people don't do that. They don't come in. So they're trying to trade whatever they're trying to trade. They're bouncing around everywhere. They have no plan. They have no real understanding of what they're doing. And that's what's causing them to lose. And the best part about this, though, is that since this is true, they can change the trajectory of what they're doing. And they may want to trade, but when they look at the questions that I proposed there and they go, well, it's not really feasible for me to do that right now. Or it's not really feasible for me to trade the 15-minute time frame. I've got work. I shouldn't be trading while I'm at work because then my attention is not on work and it's not on my trading. So I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get fired because I'm not doing a good job there. I'm not fully focused on it. And I'm going to lose my money because, again, not focused on what I'm doing. Now if you're working and you have the time to set aside, you can choose times outside of work. Just treat your trading like a business. Give it set hours. Don't worry about what happens in the other times. If you're going to trade, especially if you want to, everybody talks about scalping and day trading, especially if you want to do that. It's actually, it doesn't matter what happens outside your time frame. But see, again, this is where everybody comes in and they say, listen, I'm doing this. I want to do this, but it's not really, because what they're really focused on is I want to get the very lowest pullback right before price breaks out and runs to 100,000 straight up without taking a break. But that isn't really going to happen. But they're saying, oh, but I'm a trader, a day trader, a scalper. But their thought process is really that. And they're trying to do this while they're working, when they should be spending time with family. I'm going to tell you, listen, guys, I'm going to say one thing here real quick. I'm a big family man. I'm very much about, especially when it comes to kids. And I think that, a lot of kids are losing out today because when their parents are there, they're not there. They're not in the moment. They're on their phone scrolling. They're doing all the nonsense. I think really you have to be there when you're with your kids. So I bring this up because people are trying to look at their charts all day and all the time, every time they can. They go on a date with their spouse or their partner or just somebody they're trying to date, right? And they're looking at the phone, right? They're not there.
That's right.
With their kids, they're not there. And again, same way with work. It's the easiest way to lose out on everything. If you're going to trade, just make it a business. Figure out I'm going to trade on these days from this time. That's it. And then that way you just focus on it at that time. And when you're outside of it, you can focus on the other things in your life, because otherwise, I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen it all the time, over the last 30 years here, you're going to lose it all. You're not going to do well at anything. You'll be lucky if you're mediocre at best, which isn't a real happy life,
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. And in your business, you'd have a lot of reasons to say just the opposite. So I really, really validate that. Seeing some comments here, people are talking about, hey, Gary, you do know that most of the people in Bitcoin are dead broke, right? I think it's poor as dirt. Well, I am so sorry for you, dude. Like, it shouldn't be that way, okay? You guys were here a lot longer than I was, okay? Like, I'm sorry, but that should change. I mean, this is my point. Then why the hell are you trading if you're dirt poor? You should be doing a business. I mean, I have 3 different spots to fill right now. I can't find any. Everybody wants to work for themselves.
Yeah.
Until they do.
Yeah.
I met a 24-5-year-old woman yesterday. She's 1.5 million viewers. Very interesting character. It goes and does. If she was day trading, she could never do this. The woman literally says, "What am I scared to do? Oh, I'm scared to be a comedian." And she goes and does a whole, 8-week program on doing dry comedy, dude, on stage. Now, as a grown man who's like, I'm not a dumb guy, I'm looking at her going, wow, I've never seen ambition like that. That she would say, hey, I'm scared to go talk to people, so I am going to talk to people. And she tapes the whole thing. I immediately wanted to offer a job.
Yeah.
And my team's sitting here going, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, bro, like, come on. Like, you can, like, her problem's going to be, and I won't share who she was, her problem is she is going to be very lonely. That job will get so lonely, right? And can you replicate it? If you only have $1,500, I don't know why you're trading.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd go read a book. I'd go buy some books. I'd get a mentor. I'd go to my church, maybe give $100 to the church just for a little good karma, and then go get a job, man. Like any job where you're learning something. Um, and then just deploy as much of this as you can. You can buy $70 a week, you know.
Yep.
And
But it's the whole the bias to price, right? They go, oh well, it's only $70, and then they end up not doing it, and they go in there with their money, and they go and not doing what they're doing, they lose their money anyway. Where had they just done the $70 a week or every other week or whatever over the course of a year or 5 years or whatever, they'd be so much further ahead. But man, absolutely love and agree 100% with what you're saying there about it, because at the end of the day, if you're in trading and you have bill pressure, if you are not comfortable with your bills and you can get them paid and whatnot, it is going to make you make the worst decisions in trading. You're going to try and continue to get as rich as possible, as quick as possible, and that always ends in disaster. It always does. Every once in a while, you'll see somebody go, "Oh well, I turned this much into this much," and they actually locked it in. They actually got out. It's such a rare thing. But when you see that, then you think, oh, well, I can do that too. But you're only seeing that one person. You're not seeing the tens of thousands of other people out there who lost it all as they were doing it. I am, again, I'm a trader, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm such a firm believer that at the end of the day, the first thing you do is make sure you have income. Make sure you got cash flowing in. Make sure whatever you got to do it, make sure you're doing that. Because if you're trying to get into trading while you still have those issues, while you still have the underlying stress of how am I going to pay my bills this month, you are not going to have the patience you need to wait for the best entry to come in. You're going to jump in just because there's a chance. And when you do that, most of the time you're going to lose your money on that, rather than waiting for the higher confidence trade, the thing that has more reasons for you actually to be in. So I absolutely love that you said that. I could not agree more. If you are struggling, don't even think about the markets, right? They will be there. If you really want to learn to trade, you'll be able to do it, but wait until you get on your feet. Wait till you make sure that you're okay. Figure out what you need to do. And, again, like you said, the answer isn't always, being your own boss. Being your own boss just means now you've got tens of thousands, maybe millions of bosses out there, right? Your customers. You're working, my God, you're working 16, 20 hours a day for weeks, months, years on end. People don't understand what's involved with it. When you can go work for a company, put that same work ethic in there, try to do your best and to make sure you're being somebody of value to that company, and they'll pull you up through it. You will stand out so great. They'll pull you up through it. And now you got options, you got, and not just stock options potentially, but you got options on what you can do, where you can go, how you can do it. You've got income, you've got your bills and everything set. I can't agree with that enough. Honestly, we don't hear enough about it.
have you met Sam Arms yet? The guy that I brought onto the team?
Not personally, just there with what we do on Spaces.
Yeah. But, so you've heard his, communication. I mean, he doesn't know a lot about Bitcoin. He's coming from it. He's 27. He was in Jackson. I met him at a consensus last year. I said, dude, you need to move to St. Pete where the real action is. He moves everything St. Pete. That resonated with him. He moves to St. Pete 4 months ago. As soon as he's here, I'm like, let's go grab dinner. We get to knowing each other. I bring him on to be a political analyst for us for 3 weeks. Dude, I'm just going to make him the president of the freaking company. 27 years old. And this is exactly what I do. When I find somebody with heart, bro, 27, why am I going to wait to make you the president of the company? Okay. I let you do the job that I'm supposed to be doing. Let him handle the hammers, handle the staff, bro, go put a budget together. Okay. Start overseeing stuff. And then I get to correct them as we go.
Yep.
I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime for him. He doesn't know anything about my life, right? But he's got good, solid principles. I mean, I might be wrong. Okay, 3 months from now, I might have to fire the guy because he can't man up. But guess what? That's at his risk.
Yeah.
Right. He's going to have to go. Oh, I didn't make it with Gary Cardone. That's not really good. I don't have a history of people not like people come with me. I don't let people don't leave, man, because they like the environment. I give them a lot of room. But if he starts doing the day trading, I'll fire his ass tomorrow morning. Right? Because like I need someone that has a consistent mind, not and to your point earlier, and we probably ought to just open up a counseling session. Because quite frankly, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Most people do not know who they are.
Right. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Do not know who they are. You don't know what your weaknesses are. And if you don't know that, let me tell you, trading is the last thing you want to do. Okay. That's why most gamblers die broke and on heroin because their problems are bigger than their gambling. And the gambling, they're trying to fix another problem. And it's just more dopamine. It's more hits. Like, there was a time in my life when I could trade. It is not now. It would cost me. I would never do another piece of art. I would never write anything because my mind's going to get rewired, dude. Now you might be able to do it. I can't.
Yeah.
And I'd be swinging for the fence all the time, dude. Hey, let me. I don't know if your time's running out, but let me pop to something else because I spoke with a guy like you. I actually felt like I was committing adultery on you the other day because I had a TA guy in. He thinks the Bitcoin dominance is going to go 42, and I think it's going to 75. And like these guys still believe they can play the Bitcoin game, jump over the altcoins, which they're all jumping now. I'm like, I thought your thesis was Bitcoin moves, then Bitcoin gets dumped into the alts and the alts move. Why are y'all so early?
Yeah.
Why are you in all these coins right now, guys? You're not even following your own thesis. Do you think this is going to be the year where alts don't work the way they've worked in the prior cycles, or do you think we continue?
I mean, I'm looking at charts right now. Alts have still got some good movement left in them, I think. Again, if you're getting out of Bitcoin though, I believe you're gonna have to get in higher. You know, up until this cycle, it's always been, you know, Bitcoin takes a breather, it pulls back, and that's when you jump into alts, and then you can go through alts, and then you can fold back into Bitcoin where it's lower than where you got out. And I just don't think that's the thing these days anymore. I think alts will continue going up there, but if you're playing it with the idea that you're going to get back into Bitcoin at a lower price, you're severely mistaken, I think. And here's the thing. Alts should outperform Bitcoin. Okay, that's great. But if Bitcoin is still performing, your relative return, right? Before it was like, hey, listen, if I made $10,000 on alts, let's say I got out of Bitcoin at 35 and it pulled back to 20. And during that time, I made $10,000 on alts. Well, now I can take that $10,000 and put it in Bitcoin at 20. And so you're exponentially increasing your return on Bitcoin. That was great. But now if we're here at 61 and you're getting into alts and Bitcoin rallies to 100 and you make, we'll say of the 100,000 on alts, right? Well, okay. Well, you're going to get back in, you know, and if alts are done as Bitcoin kind of.
And by the way, you had to pay taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got to pay taxes. Exactly.
The fucking numbers don't work, dude. Like I would love to run through the numbers with you. They don't work, man. They don't work. I need an exponential like 20xer. And I'm sitting here, people get angry with me when I tell them, oh, I have Dogecoin. You know, like, dude, I think Dogecoin is a great buy here for two reasons. If Elon dies, Dogecoin goes up. It will become like a super memorial, you know, memorabilia. If he gets X to work and he lives, Dogecoin's probably going to have a roll. It's
Yeah.
just a call option on Elon's death or his success. It's an awesome deal. I cannot do that on Ethereum.
Right.
If Vitalik gets killed, dude, that Ethereum's going to get crushed.
Yeah.
Imagine what Hex would do with if Richard Hart dies.
X.
Okay. Well, any of these, right? They're like they're human error risk. I don't have
Yeah.
human error risk with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if we think of it in terms, again, we started out talking about Bitcoin actually as an industry rather than, a coin. So if we kind of extrapolate that and we look at, okay, well, in business, right? If you are the face and the big thing of the business, if you're not there and the business is going to fail, you're not going to be able to find anybody to buy it, right? If you instead create processes and people in the business that can do what you do, well, now you've got the chance to sell your business, 20, 30 EBITDA, whatever it is. And you've got that extension there. So, I mean, it makes sense. Again, just looking at things that we look at generally, just how do, trading isn't this weird one-off thing, right? I always talk to people about trading and about how, for instance, if your mentality is victim, if you are always, everything happens to you, everything is somebody else's fault. If you have not learned how to take personal responsibility yet, like, I mean, really, then when you get into trading, it's not going to be any different. And trading is going to be absolutely atrocious for you. You're going to hate it because you haven't figured that out yet. But if you're in trading, let's say, and you recognize that that's the way you think, and you work on it and you get out of that mindset, you start understanding, okay, I've got a role to play, my decisions, place me in the situations that I'm in throughout life, and it's just part of it. And now we figure out what we do when we have setbacks. You take that responsibility. Well, now that is not just going to sit there in trading, but that's going to go over every other part of your life, whether it's work, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's anything. And so, again, all these general ideas about human beings, about how we go through life, about business, all of this is not in and of its own. It's all the same thing as it comes together in whatever else we're doing. Nothing is special and not a part of it. So my big thing when I'm always talking to people about trading is, what is that view on life? Because that, before even the questions I gave earlier, you have to believe that you can effect positive change on your life. You have to believe it. If you cannot believe that, then there's no way you can get into trading or even investing, because you're going to sabotage yourself because you don't believe that you can create more, that you can do better. And so, people get in there, and I'm not going to lie, I'll take your money. I'll take your money all day, every day. It's what it is, guys. We're adults. If you're in the markets, whatever market it is, real estate, you got to know what you're doing. Stocks, you got to know what you're doing. Crypto, you got to know what you're doing. Professionals like myself that are in those markets, it's nothing personal against you, but we're going to take your money day and night because we understand all this.
Well, they're gonna buy the product from somebody anyway. I'd rather them buy the product from you, and then you're gonna tell them, hey, dude, what is your thing cost a year? What does it cost?
Right. Oh, yeah. So if you do the year group coaching that we have, I think we've got that right there around $3,900.
Yeah, $4,000. That's $300 a month. Okay, like
Yeah.
to pay Chris, an honest guy, $300 a month. I get nothing from him. I don't have an affiliate deal. I don't get spoofed by anybody except God, hopefully. But Chris will tell you, bro, quit spending $300 with me and go get a job with Gary. I mean, the amount of people finally sitting here going, man, job with Gary, I'd work for free. You guys should be looking to work for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be like doing what you love to do. Then you're never broke.
Yeah.
You're never broke if you're really digging what you do and you're doing it and your heart's out there. Okay, you got to pay your bills. But most people I meet, they need a guy like you or me to go through their bills first.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit here you don't need. Like that car you just think you bought, you didn't need that car.
Yeah.
Well, it's only $500 a month. What's the insurance cost you do?
Yep.
Oh, it's not 500. It's 750 now. Okay.
Gas, oil changes.
I mean, you can buy a clunker, man. I went on a date the other night. I can't believe people are renting homes, and they're paying this much on homes, and they think they should buy a home.
Yep.
It's anyway, it's just a fundamental broken down thesis of how to deploy money.
Yeah.
Full stop. It's not, it's about the whole in trading, investing, short term, long term. Anyway, if you guys aren't following Chris, you should. I really honor what he does. I get a lot out of it. I mean, I call him every now and then and go, hey, I have a little deployment. What do you think? I don't pay him for that, but it's good for me to know, hey, like, I don't think I'm going to get hit in the 57,000. And I would rather pick it up at 60 and be wrong than miss it at 61, waiting for 57. Like, it's just an ego trade for me now, right? Really, it's just my ego. How do you deal with that? I mean, do you tell the guy, hey, look, if you don't get hit in a week, then maybe start layering some in, and like if I had 100, I then go, let me go grab 10 of that at the market right now, and then I keep my layers in, but I reduce one of those pots, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, when we talk to people, you know, when I talk to them, I explain to them, listen, you know, one of the biggest things I try to get across to people, no matter how long they say they've been in the markets, because here's the thing, I talk to people all day, oh, I've been a trader for 7 years. Okay, so you're consistently profitable. No. You've ever had a profitable year? Well, I had that 1 year. Okay, you're not a trader, you're a gambler. And I don't say that to turn them off. I say this so that they can get the realization. It's the truth. They need to understand, because if you're not honest with yourself about what's going on, you can't change. And you're going to continue doing the same thing you're doing, getting the same results. So my first thing is always listen. There are no guarantees in the market other than you're going to lose money from time to time. And the newer you are, the more inexperienced you are, the more money you're going to lose, and the more often you're going to lose it. Okay. This is the first thing. And then when we go through and we're teaching them, listen, here's how you use these things. We say, listen, it's not the end all be all definitive. There's no guarantee price is only going to pull back to the 50% and then go. If it goes through the 50%, you got the 61.8, the 70.5, the 78.6. Now there's ways that you can mitigate that, which we talk about, you know, as we're getting there, and maybe shrink those possibilities down. But the reality of it is, there's never any, oh yeah, it's definitely changing from here. You may get lucky if you say that, but that's all it is. Nobody is consistently 100% correct about it's always going to hit this level and reverse at this level. So when we do that, we start with that, and then we say, listen, it's better to have a couple of different positions around the areas that you're looking for, maybe a little bit lower, to go in, right? And that way, if it does continue beyond where you're at, you're still getting in. If it doesn't hit your lower levels, you're still in anyway. And then as it rallies up through the levels that we need it to rally through to say, okay, the odds are increasingly likely that you're correct here, then you start using those levels as positions to add in. So you just, you hope that you can get it all filled to the low, but if you only get filled at the top and it goes the other way, well, then you can get filled a little bit up here, and you're still making sure that you're becoming, fully deployed, rather than missing out on your opportunity. Because the worst thing you can do is be waiting for 57 and price to go up here from and break out higher, because you won't get in.
How many people do you know? You've been doing this longer than me in this Bitcoin space. How many people do you know had 300, sold at 7,000, and they're looking at it now going, nah, I can't do that. I can't buy it. And Gary Cardone and Chris Inks are going, dude, it's cheaper today. Risk than it was when you bought it 700.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? This is ego.
Yeah.
And this little trick that you just taught me, hey, go and pick up 100 grand, pick up 10% of it. It actually competes with my ego. I'm literally saying, hey, maybe I'm wrong in the 57s.
Yeah.
Right. So if I am wrong, because I can be wrong in these markets, I will most often be wrong, actually.
There you go.
I will most often be wrong. The question is, did I do something? Did I pull the trigger, right, in a reactive way? The reaction's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. But what you said is exactly right. I would go a step further and say, assume that you're going to be wrong. Every time I go into a trade, I assume I'm going to be wrong. Yes, I've got experience. Yes, I do pretty damn well. But if I go in there and I start, feeling really big about myself, that's going to bring emotion into it. It's going to bring ego into it. And instead of understanding that I really don't know for sure, I have a good feeling maybe, but it doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. And those good feelings lose you money all the time because it's
All
difficult.
the time, man.
It is difficult to get into a position feeling like, oh my God, I know I'm right. I'm right. And it goes a little bit your way. And then it turns and comes back against you, especially the less experience you have dealing with your emotions, just in life in general. It's so difficult to deal with that and actually get out when your stop loss is. Most people will say, "Oh, well, it's just going to go a little bit lower, so I'll just pull it down." And then next thing you know, it tanks like 20% in 5 minutes or something, and all of a sudden you're way underwater. And emotionally, what goes on is you sit there and you start thinking, "Well, crap, I was in profit and I didn't take it. I should. It was coming back, and I felt like I should have taken it. I should have just let it hit the stop loss. I would have lost 1% or whatever. Now I can't possibly take this loss because once I close out this trade, I'm down 20%. And what if it turns up and goes up all of a sudden?"
Yeah.
And this is what people deal with all the time in the markets. Everybody. And if you don't have experience, just generally in life, dealing with your emotions, most of us don't. If you don't understand when your emotions get overheated, whether fear or anger or anything like that, if you can't see that coming and then do something about it before it happens pretty consistently, you're going to have a really, really difficult time sticking to plan and trading. And you have to stick to plan and trading.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I always love getting together with you. We're going to close up here because this last comment I saw just made me laugh my ass off. Bitcoin trader said, it's going to be crazy to look back 5 to 10 years from now, and these two guys are still streaming together. I can assure you that will not be happening.
Oh
But
my gosh, that's good stuff.
that'd be funny, huh? With the year 2032 and we're still doing this. Hey, what's the price doing there, Chris?
Man, you know what? I love what I do, but by that time, the goal is to not be doing all this like I am now. So,
Yeah, we'll be talking about some things, but it won't be about this particular price movement. I think the price will not be 70 grand either in 5 years.
no, no, not
Hey,
at all.
Chris, thank you so much, buddy. Have a great weekend. You guys follow Chris. He's awesome. Retweet this space, re-exit, re-YouTube it, redo it, do whatever you
That
got
link
to
out
do.
there.
And bring more people into this for education. Okay. If we can help people become more wealthy, and wealthy is like wealthy for me is not about how much money you have, it's how happy you are in your life. I'm doing this because I am having fun, it's enjoyable, and I get to make a bet. It wouldn't be the same with me without making an investment. So and the value of connecting with people like you, Chris, is for me, I've never received this from an industry before, and I think it's a imputed value, intrinsic value into Bitcoin that no one is placing a penny's worth of value into. And I think we're still going to get that. So thank you very much for coming into my world, man. I really like it.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Enjoy doing it with you, man.
All right, buddy. See you later.
All right, take care.
Ciao.